Today's lesson is about the Indian Ocean maritime trade route. Looking at this map, you can see the different routes that people were taking overseas so that they could trade products with different civilizations. You'll also see, if you notice, the monsoon winds on there. Those are going to be very important to this trade. Like the Silk Roads, trade grew because of environmental and cultural diversities in each region. There was a desire for goods that were not available at home. So to access those goods, people would trade what they did have at home with what others had in their civilizations, in their cultures, in their homes. The same goods were traded from each region as the ones on the Silk Roads. Examples of that would be silk and porcelain from China and ivory and gold from the African coast. Unlike the Silk Roads, though, transportation costs were much lower. Ships were able to carry a lot more product than camels could across deserts and hard terrains that were included in the Silk Roads. Sea roads carried more bulk and staple goods as well, not just luxury items like on the Silk Roads, and we're going to learn what those are in just a second. Like I said, the monsoons played a really important role on the Indian Ocean trade route. It made Indian Ocean exchange possible. Monsoons are alternating wind currents. I really want to stress this. It's not the rain that most people tend to think of, but it's actually alternating wind currents. If you look to the picture on the right, you'll see the summer monsoons are blowing toward the east, and the winter monsoons are blowing like southwest. All right, so the Indian Ocean exchange does not necessarily take place between specific countries. It's not between entire regions either, but it is between individual merchant towns. Most of those towns, if you look at the map, are on the coast. So people would stop on the coast and trade there. So a little bit on the growth of the Indian Ocean trade route. There are two major transformations occurring between 500 and 1500 that led to major growth of the Indian Ocean trade network. One of those is economic and political revival of China. So China has a growth spurt going on, and it affects the trade route. The second thing is the rise of Islam in the 7th century. This allowed for countries to align themselves with one common cause and be able to communicate, and it really made trade boom in those Islamic nations at the time. So more on China's comeback. 4 centuries after the collapse of the Han Dynasty, China had a comeback. It reestablished a unified government, encouraged sea trade. Economic growth happened, which allowed Chinese products to pour into trade networks. There are also technological innovations like larger ships and the magnetic compass that we talked about in our previous lesson. And Zheng He, he is huge when it comes to trade routes. He had ships that were gigantic, probably like 3 times the size of Christopher Columbus's largest. So the rise of Islam contributed to trade on this route as well. Islam was friendly to commercial life, unlike Confucianism, which was what was going on in China. They kind of closed off their borders and became more conservative and wanted to keep within themselves, where Islam was welcoming to commerce. They wanted people to come trade in these. There was a creation of an Arab empire. It stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to India. It brought together a wide range of economies in a single political system. And it was powerful, and it was a wealthy empire. It continued to stimulate the Indian Ocean trade. All right, so the sea roads equals change. Indian Ocean trade transformed all of its participants in one way or another. Major transformations in 2 regions were Southeast Asia and East Africa. Both regions experienced political change. Rulers used wealth to construct large states. And cultural change, which led to exposure to new religions. So we're going to talk about some of those places. One you'll see in Africa is Great Zimbabwe. In Southeast Asia, you'll see Srivijaya and the Khmer Empire and Sailendra. So Southeast Asia and Srivijaya. Southeast Asia is between India and China. Its geography allowed it to play an important role in the Indian Ocean commerce. In 350 Common Era, Malay soldiers opened an all-water sea route between India and China through the Straits of Malacca. That resulted in more traders and travelers in the region. It also resulted in ports along Malay Peninsula competing to attract these traders. From this competition emerged the Malay Kingdom of Srivijaya. They dominated this region of the Indian Ocean commerce from 670 to 1025 Common Era. And this came with advantage. It was a big supply of gold. There was access to in-demand spices. It placed taxes on passing ships, so no one could come through that Strait of Malacca without paying first. There's also cultural change. They were influenced by Indian traders and adopted Buddhism. Rulers sponsored the creation of images of the Buddha in different bodhisattvas. Srivijaya also became a major center of Buddhist learning and culture. The kingdom of Sailendra, another kingdom in Southeast Asia influenced by Indian culture. You can see it's right south of Srivijaya, or southeast, I'm sorry. They built huge Hindu temples and Buddhist monuments. The largest Buddhist monument anywhere in the world is located here in Borobudur. And this is a picture of Borobudur. It's a Buddhist religious structure. It's mountain-shaped, has 10 levels, and it has elaborate carvings and illustrations. The walkway to get up to the door is 3 miles long, so it's really, really big. All right, so let's look at civilizations in East Africa and Swahili. Swahili civilization is a set of commercial city-states stretching across the East African coast. Each city-state was politically independent with its own king, and there was big competition between each city-state. Each city-state, of course, wanted to be the most powerful and have the most money. So there's sharp class distinctions in each city-state. There's a big gap between the merchant elite class, so the people who are trading high up in society in East Africa, and the commoners, so the people who are not trading, who just live everyday farming life. So there's a cultural change in Swahili as well. Arab, Indian, and Persian merchants are welcome there. So Swahili language ends up being created, which is a blend of African Bantu and Arabic. Swahili civilization quickly became Islamic as well. And Ibn Battuta, an Arab scholar and merchant, visited locations in East Africa on his journey. He described these East African cities as Muslim societies. Coastal cities are also known as intermediaries. They got valued goods from the interior of Africa, so places that were not on the border, and then sold them to others using the Indian Ocean trade route. So they would take goods from inside the interior of Africa and then move them to the coast and then trade them on the Indian Ocean network. It allowed regions in the interior of Africa to become wealthy even though they were not part of the actual trade work. An example of this is the Great Zimbabwe.